So after we finish Trikonasana A, we're here, and we go straight into Trikonasana B, or the twisted triangle, or it's also sometimes called Pavrita Trikonasana. So we go straight to pivot around, face the back of the mat. As we exhale, we move into the right side, twisted triangle, 5 breaths, and then inhale, open up, come towards the center, exhale, come into the left side for 5 breaths. And then inhale, open up to the side again. And then finally, we go into Samasthiti. So let's break that down. Trikonasana B, I'm going to show it to you on the left side. We start by pressing the feet down and away from each other, just like we did in Trikonasana A. The feet for this one, you can have the heels in one line. But sometimes as we start to move into the posture, the hips might feel like they get stuck a little bit. So if that happens to you, if you have a little bit more tightness around the hips, then move that right foot, the back foot, to the side a little bit so that the 2 heels are in 2 parallel lines. And that'll give the hips a little bit more space to move and not be so rigid as we move into Trikonasana B. So maybe you start moving into it and you feel like you're getting stuck, come out of it, move the foot, and go back in. So from here, again, I like to create space as I move into the posture. So already start rooting down through both feet, moving them down and away from each other, maybe micro-bending the knees and engaging the quads, so lifting the kneecaps. And then you reach up and forward. As you do that, start especially pressing down through this left foot. And that's going to start to move that left hip back. So that crease in front of the left hip is moving back. You can even take your left thumb in the front of the left hip crease and just move it back and feel that space that's being created and moving in the opposite direction as this right hand. And then when you don't have any more space, you bring the hand down to the floor. So options for the hands can be the inside of the foot, a deeper twist would be the outside of the foot, and then with either option, you can have the hand on a block. Especially if the hamstrings are tight, I think it's better to have a block so you can get the palm flat than to not have a block and have the fingertips only touching. Because if you have the palm flat, then you have something more stable to press down into. And we're going to see in a moment how that helps us to move into the twist. So you have your hand positioned. So far, we're just in this like forward fold where the torso is over the left leg. And you want to make sure that both feet are evenly pressing down. Sometimes there's a tendency to shift into one foot or the other. And you just notice how that brings the hips out of alignment. You're here, the hips are more or less in one line, even with each other. One's not hiked up more than the other. So again, you can even take your thumb again, place it in the front of the hip crease, move it back. Sometimes that helps. It's more common for this hip to be too up and forward, so you can just move it back. You might even have to just like take a picture of yourself or take a video of yourself. It's hard to know, it's hard to be aware of where your body is in space in this posture, and it's one of the main postures that really helps us to build our sense of proprioception, a sense of where our body is in space. So we have the hand down, we're pressing evenly down through both feet, and now we begin to press down through that right hand, and that starts to bring the torso into a twist as we reach the left arm up. So again, we're reaching down and out through all 4 limbs, pressing evenly down through both feet, pressing down through the right hand. And we're moving this left sit bone back and towards the midline as we move the rib cage away from the left hip. So that's sending the heart forward and up towards the left hand. So a lot going on in this posture. One important thing, I think sometimes we're told in this posture that we need to keep the hips locked in one place, but allow the hips to move. Allow the hips to be where they need to be as we move into it. And once you're there, then you can think about stabilizing the hips, maybe by pressing down through the feet, by moving this left sit bone back and towards the midline, drawing the lower belly in. And that might help you to get them more or less in line with each other. Some people, forcing the hips to be super perfectly in one line might not be good for the hip joints. So feel into it. What is the most stable and balanced way of holding Trikonasana B? If that means the hips are a little bit off, that's okay. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. Also, once we're in the posture, different topic, as we're pressing down through the feet, we do a similar action in the pelvis that we do in Trikonasana A of slightly dropping the tailbone. So you don't want to come into an arching position where you're lifting the sit bones up and you're going into the twist. It might feel like that's deepening the twist, but really it's not. You need to find that stability and that aponic gesture by dropping the tailbone just a little bit to really ground you into the feet. And then from there, you can find length through the torso, and then from that length, you can move deeper into the twist. So just to recap all of that, you press the feet down and away from each other, drop the tailbone slightly, draw the lower belly in, and feel the heart reaching forward and up. So you're creating space between the rib cage and that left hip. And dropping the tailbone helps you to find that space. And then same thing as A, if the gazing up is too much strain on the neck, gaze to the side. And then on the last exhale, I like to look down to find my balance. And then on the inhale, open up to the side, take a moment here, exhale into Samasthiti. All right, it's important posture to establish these patterns for twisting right from the beginning so that they can inform our deeper twists later on.